Welcome to Conversations Different, a podcast from the Santa Fe, New Mexican about interesting people, places, and issues of northern New Mexico. This is Inez Russell Gomez, and today I am talking with Margaret Neill, Library Division Director for Santa Fe's Public Library System. Welcome, Margaret.
Hello, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I wanted to talk to you because I saw a notice that invited people to offer community input on the main library building downtown. It asked people to reimagine the main library building into the community center it needs to be, both now and in the future. So I wondered, what does that mean?
Well, we moved into this facility in 1986.
Yep.
Is when we moved across the street. I hear lots of fun stories about when people basically had like the book brigade.
They basically had a line of people that went from the building that the Fray Angelico Chavez statue is in front of. I guess it used to be the library, and the books went across and took them in. And it was just a beautifully imagined building too, because they had different artists that built the chairs, let's say, in the children's room and added extra things. They had the John Gaume lights. It was really a labor of love.
Yes.
Yep.
It hasn't been updated since then. So
Nope,
one
true.
of the things that we're looking at is just, libraries have changed so much just even in the past 10 years. And
Right.
the things that we do are not just traditional library services. We do still do those, but there's just so much more. So we wanted to get public feedback as we're looking at possibly doing some renovations in this facility. What would people like to see and what would they like us to keep? And loud and clear, everybody's been very loud and clear about the Southwest room. Nobody has to worry.
Yep.
We're not touching it. We know. We may just polish it a little bit, but we're not messing with it. It is a beautiful space and we wouldn't ever want to change that. But there are other things like the community room and one of our little meeting rooms. Is it enough? Do we need to expand? Are people still interested in little meeting room spaces or do they want something else? So we wanted to get community feedback on that while we're working on this plan so that we have something that's shovel ready in a year or so when we can go to legislative appropriation or put out a bond and say we'd like to elevate main library.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that no one wants to talk about because we all love the library and it's so, it really is enmeshed. I was a young reporter here when that conversion happened. So I actually was there. So I can remember that day and I remember writing stories leading up to it about how careful the planning was to change the library. And it's an old municipal building, used to be a fire station. It's not built to be a library. Yeah. And one of the things people don't want to ask is, do you need a new library building downtown?
I don't think we do.
Okay.
I think, this building is going to stay. And, we're not thinking at all of like bulldozing it. It's a historical building, even though there's been enough renovation. I don't think it's eligible for, historical status, but it's a beautiful building. It's in a great location and it fits the vibe of downtown. It wouldn't really make sense to like try to build a new brand spanking new state-of-the-art library here. When we have a building with good bones, it just needs to be kind of reconfigured in the interior so that it makes more sense for people who use the library now.
Does it have enough room?
Sort of, there's that's a broader conversation when we talk about Maine and Lafarge and Southside and how big our collection is and if we have space. I think, with the city growing, we obviously have sort of expanded at all of our locations to try to meet needs. Right now, it is just big enough, but we can't really get much bigger here because we're in a we're in a limited space.
Set space, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And honestly, eventually you might need another library in a different part of town, depending on how it grew out, if there was money in the budget for something like that.
Yeah. And there's the Midtown development Vogelson Library.
Right.
And I think, that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of if we're going to make a state of the art, really cool library that's community based, it would probably be at Vogelson.
Right. In that location. That makes sense. And I know one of the things that people talk about is in terms of changing libraries, when it was first opened, you didn't have people who used it as basically their day home. And that's part of it today. So how does that look at what you're doing?
Well, we do have to consider how it's being used now. We have a population of people. There's everybody from the city comes to the library. We have people who are unhoused, people who are in vulnerable situations, but we also have families and retirees, and so it's trying to find that perfect blend of a welcoming, comforting space as well as a functional space. And we want everybody that comes through the doors to feel safe and welcome. And there's obviously just a little bit of balancing that we have to do to make that happen. But we are fully in support of being a community. When we say community center, we don't. Sometimes we realized after we put out that notice that a lot of people thought that meant we were turning this into like a gym or something, and that's not what we really meant. We just meant that libraries have become so much more than just a place to get books. They're a hub, and they connect people from all walks of life together, and we want to encourage that, and we want the building to reflect that.
Yeah, no, there's a big debate about the need for third spaces in people's lives that aren't your home, that aren't your work. And a library is one of those places where you go and you see other people and you do the things that you want to do in your life.
Mhm. And make
Yeah.
connections,
Yeah.
especially post-COVID. I think a lot of people didn't realize, how much that kind of untethered a lot of people. There were a lot of lost connections during COVID, and everybody was at home. So coming back to a space like the library is kind of a way of transitioning back into, post-COVID world.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, my son used to have math tutoring there twice a week back in the day. And it wasn't a library thing necessarily. He wasn't checking out books, but he was definitely using the table and the space.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it functions like that for anybody.
Yeah.
We have people who work remotely.
Right.
We have people who use the meeting rooms and community spaces. It's Yeah, and we want to be sure that when we make changes to the building, it meets what people need.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know I babysit a kid every so often, and we walked over to the library, and I was really impressed with how many toys there were. Because when my son was little and we were first using that room, it was just books and nice chairs, not toys. And oh boy, we had a good time. That's just such a welcoming place.
Yeah, our children's librarian Kate is a big proponent of play as a
Uh-huh.
way of making kids comfortable in the library and having fun, and just thinking the library is a fun space. So having those toys is part of her long-term strategy to remind kids that the library is a fun place. It's not boring.
No, you don't have to always have the mean old librarian going shh.
Yes, I have never shushed anyone in all of my years.
Oh wow, that's
Ever.
that's that's pretty amazing. So what suggestions are people coming up with?
Well, we hear a lot about the parking, which is fair.
Yeah.
We know the lot isn't big enough. But other things that people have talked about, other than like stay away from the Southwest room, which we totally respect, is increasing meeting room space, places where people can have private meetings or study rooms. A lot of people do not just telecommuting, but there's also telemedicine and doing job interviews and things like that. And you need more privacy, and we've seen that at Southside, where we do have little study rooms, and people book them for those reasons. And so we've had that come up in conversation. We've also had just people who are like, well, don't completely change it up, but maybe you need new carpet and you need to, new furniture, things like that. So it's been, and then there were some questions about, do we need all the shelving? Should we make the shelving shorter? Should we make it taller? Does it make you feel kind of claustrophobic? So we've had some really good suggestions about, better ways to use the space or better ways to utilize more seating, more comfortable seating, more quiet space, which, like I said, I haven't shushed anyone, but patrons have definitely shushed me. So I know that quiet space is something that people need, and we don't want to take that. So, more opportunities for quiet space and meeting space is primarily what we've been hearing. That and parking.
Okay. On that note, we'll take a quick break and be back in a moment with more Conversations Different.
We make renewable doable. We're positive energy solar for a cleaner, brighter future for all. Positive energy's the right call. Feel good about your energy bill. Help save the planet too. Your trusted solar company, working hard for you. Generate positive energy. Positive energy solar.
We are back with Margaret Neill, who is director of Santa Fe's public library system. Margaret, talk a little bit about how you got to Santa Fe, because you have been here several years now and you have a big job.
I do. I've been here for almost 4 years. I was previously I was the library director in Las Cruces at Brannigan Library, and before that I was at El Paso Public Library. When this job was advertised, I was kind of intrigued because I've been to Santa Fe so many times. Growing up in El Paso, we were close enough so that we could go to Santa Fe. I went here on school field trips, and I went here for family vacations. My mom comes up every summer for the opera. She's a huge opera fan, and the museums, because she's also a huge museum fan. So I've been to Santa Fe so many times, and like a lot of people who move here, it's a beautiful town and it's unique and it's interesting. And when the job posting went up, I thought, I love Santa Fe and it's such a cool town. It would be really interesting to go up there and run the library. So I applied and I got the job. I was really, still am kind of wowed by how much of a library town Santa Fe is, how much people really love and support the library here. It's really amazing to me. I mean, just meeting the friends of the library and seeing everything that they do for us was amazing. And it's really great to be, it's not that Las Cruces didn't have library supporters, because obviously it did. People love the library in Las Cruces, but here people are just so passionate about it. If you tell them, oh, I work at the library, they immediately like, oh my God. And it's just been really fun to be here and to be in such a reading town and a library town. And
I think we're in the same boat as a newspaper, as the library is that we are successful today to this day because people in this town read. And it's why we have independent bookstores. So it's real love of literacy and the written word that supports all of the ways that people access information.
Yeah, we have multiple bookstores here and none of them put each other out. I mean,
No.
I think in El Paso, there was Barnes and Noble and then like one small independent bookstore. And it was sad to see all those independent bookstores closing, but coming here, it's been great because we've got so many.
Yeah. It was interesting. Borders closed before independent bookstores did.
Yeah.
And again, we're, a print newspaper that still has people reading in print, subscribing to the newspaper. And it's because people like the written word.
Yeah. I mean, we have multiple copies of the New Mexican here. Everywhere. Like people read it. Yeah. We sometimes have a line. People going,
oh, I like that. If only they each bought their own copy, but
sorry,
you can't always have that. So what was your impression when you got here? So you saw that people liked books, they read, they supported the library. What did you see that we need, to improve ourselves?
At the library?
Yeah, at the library system, across.
One of the big things that I saw when I came here was that post-COVID, because we're transitioning out of COVID hours. Like I reopened, Lafarge was the last one to reopen, and we reopened Mondays, and we were still kind of moving past COVID when I got here. And one of the big things that I noticed was that, there had been a pivot during COVID to programming, a lot of programming online. And it kept going. The programs that my staff had put together were enormously popular, and not just children's programs, but adult programs and teen, we're working on teen and tween programs, but we had so much interest in our programs. And so one of the first things that I did was I was just like, we need to keep programs because people are asking for more. And so we need to meet demand. So we went into this kind of like, okay, what are people asking for? What can we bring to the table? What's out there? And my two program managers, Jess and Tiffany, they're amazing at finding community partners, bringing people in, figuring out what people are interested in, and then having programs surrounding it. They've made some really cool programs, and I've been so impressed with the quality of our programs and the diversity of them. And that's down to the staff here and
Nice.
listening to the community, and
Yeah.
that's something that's so important.
I saw that at Lafarge, they have a stitching, knitting one or something to do with fiber arts on Wednesdays. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to have at the library.
Yeah, every library is a little bit unique.
Yep.
Lafarge is a very crafty library. They have a lot of craft programs for all ages. Maine, we have a lot of like Anna Pacheco. She does lectures. People love Anna
History.
Pacheco. Yeah,
Yep.
and they love her talks, and that's really popular here. Southside, it's a family branch, and so we have a lot of multi-generational programs that go there. That aren't just for kids or just for adults, but we also have a lot of children's programs there that are unique to that one location, like pajama story time, which just works really well for that community. And so that's every branch is a little bit different.
Right. Because that's where the bulk of kids live, and they can wear their pajamas and probably go home right away and go to sleep.
Yeah, it's a nighttime story time.
Yeah.
Because families who work, if your parents work and you don't, when are you going to have time to take your kid to story time? Well, and we give you snacks. So everybody wins.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, I spent a lot of time at Lafarge. That's near to my house, and I used to walk there. And then they had toddler story time on Tuesdays, and that was like a huge part of our life. And you can just close your eyes and see the colored hallway between the main
the
and the
rainbow.
children's. Mhm.
Yeah, the rainbow
Yeah.
tunnel. It's iconic, I think.
Yeah, it is. And it's God bless them. It's such a miserable building. In terms of a structure, that is not what you'd want for a library, but it always was such a special place. It's, really nice librarians.
Yeah, the staff, I think, once you get past the outside and you get into the building, the staff really make it, I think, the kind of cozy. It's cozy. You go in
Yes.
there, they know who you are in not in a weird way, but in a nice way. They remember you. It's cozy. There's lots of interesting displays. There's programs going on. It's a busy little branch, and the staff go out of their way to make it a nice little cozy place to be.
Yeah. No, they always have. And it's never, the parking there is a lot easier than downtown.
Yes, yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is most definitely a lot easier.
Yeah. It's nice, I think, because it's by the school, so kids can go there after school to study and do their homework and maybe wait to get picked up a little bit later if they have
Yeah.
to.
We have teen hangout at Lafarge. We also have it at Southside. So teens can come in and there are board games. There's, sometimes I'll show movies. There's different things for them to do, or they'll just do homework. I think Dungeons and Dragons too, just so they have a place, a safe space to just hang out. And we also give them snacks. There's a theme here. I think beyond books, it's snacks.
No, food is so important. And if kids can have a bite to eat, they don't have to go to Food King or spend money that they don't necessarily have. So, and it's probably healthier.
Yeah, we try to toe the line with healthy.
Yeah.
But also, good.
I know last year when they were doing the budget, there was different talks about cutting this or not cutting this. Have you gotten the services, the money you need to do all the services you want to do?
I think there's always room. There's always room for more. I don't have the full budget yet for the new fiscal year, so I don't know exactly what's going to happen. But I will say that we have some extraordinary community partners in the Friends of the Library, and they pay for all of our programming. And they also cover things like staff development, and they buy books. They pay for a lot of things. So the Friends are enormously helpful in making up for any shortfalls. We've also, the community is just extremely generous. So we're okay. We don't really have a lot to do, like a huge expansion or anything, but I think in terms of where we are, we're comfortable. We'll be okay.
Right.
Because we have so much support.
Oh, that's a good thing to hear. And on that note, we'll be back in a moment with more Conversations Different.
This is Patrick Dorsey, publisher of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Looking to reach a wider audience and grow your business? For 175 years, the Santa Fe New Mexican has been the trusted voice of Santa Fe, with unmatched local reach in print and online. In addition to our long-standing, independent, family-owned newspaper, we have a full-fledged marketing team with the expertise to help you succeed in the 21st century. From traditional print to precision-targeted digital advertising, we have the tools to connect you with your ideal customers. Partner with us and see the results for yourself. Advertise with the Santa Fe New Mexican and unlock your business's full potential. Visit us at santafenewmexican.com/advertising or call us at 505-995-3852. Thank you.
We are back with Conversations Different, talking to Margaret Neill about ideas people have for making the downtown library more of a community center. And by that, they don't mean, a place with game rooms or necessarily a basketball court, but something that people can use. It seems like libraries across the world are really finding like a new place in the world.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Definitely. And people are just rediscovering libraries. As we're kind of figuring out what the communities want, people are suddenly going, "Oh, you have that?" Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we needed to, all libraries kind of had to reassess with technology just advancing as much as it is. We had to kind of think about, where we wanted to go. And what we wanted to do and what our ultimate goal was, which for us is access to information. And information can be in all sorts of formats.
No, that's a really good point. I mean, I think about, the transition in my life when I used to check out records so I could go home and listen to Broadway show tunes, to, being able to get movies, to then now you can do some of that digitally. There's just so many opportunities to expand your world if you use the library.
Yeah, I don't know if people know that they can stream movies from 2 of our apps. There's just so much that you can do that doesn't even require you to leave your house necessarily, although we'd love to have you here. Some people, if they just want to use our digital stuff, that's fine with us. But we've kind of rediscovered different ways to engage the public and to provide access to, whether it's the internet or a new book or a lecture, whatever the community is asking for, we try to meet that need.
Yeah. I think one of the really fun things that Santa Fe did a couple of years was the Big Read, where the whole community read the whole book and had, programs from kids to adults to teenagers. And I really think people enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, the Big Read it really is a big read. It's a lot of, it's an NEA program, National Endowment of the Arts.
Right.
And you have to apply for it. It's very competitive. We were lucky enough to do it 3 years in a row, which is highly unusual. Usually, you do it once every several years,
right?
Because it's a lot of work. It's a heavy lift. So we kind of backed off of that because we didn't get the grant, and now we're kind of focusing on smaller kind of big reads, like little mini big reads. We would really love to focus on Santa Fe authors and do something more like regional, maybe instead of just under the NEA banner, because they also, you have to choose a book from a list and things like that. And I kind of like the idea of celebrating, because we have so many talented writers and artists in this community that we have um, so many things to choose from. It's an embarrassment.
No, and part of that is that if you're lucky and the person's still living, you can have them meet the writer. And there's really something so exciting about meeting the person whose book you love.
Yeah. We had the poet laureate here,
Nice.
Arthur Zay. A few weeks ago, the Library of Congress actually interviewed him in the Southwest room, which was really cool.
Oh,
And we all geek out whenever we meet our local authors who are, so we were kind of overjoyed.
yeah. He was not the poet laureate when I had him on the podcast last spring, when some of his books were coming out, but it was such a thrill. And then when he got named, we just have such a great literary tradition in this town. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love the fact the Library of Congress actually sent us clips and said free use. So we're going to post those in April, which is National Poetry Month.
Oh, that was the month I had him. That's pretty exciting. Yeah. So I like the idea of going to like little big reads. And I think one of the things that libraries do that people don't think about is we think of it as a place to go when you're reading, but it's also a place to help literacy form, it seems like to me. And that's why people take their babies and their little kids, and you're expanding that, it seems like, when, increasing Spanish language books and programs where there's lots and lots of kids. So talk about the library's role in promoting literacy.
Well, obviously, we are one of the main ways that people get access to materials. But we also, literacy isn't just being able to read, it's also wanting to read and recognizing that reading is fun and it's not a chore. So we kind of address it in two ways. One, story time is fun. My children's librarians are incredibly creative, and they make really fun programs for kids, which encourages them to explore more topics and do hands-on things. We have a program where you can read to dogs, which is a way to increase your confidence in your public speaking. And we have a program that we just launched called Lena Start, which focuses on early childhood communication between parents and children, and teaching them how talk is like a precursor to literacy. And so we're doing that program in English and in Spanish. And then we do pajama story time, we do craft and family events, and we try to make the library and books and literacy fun and inviting, and kind of take away that, I have to read this, it's an assignment. And so by having just really fun, interesting programs, we want to keep not only the children entertained, but also engaged, and thinking of a library as a fun space, a safe space, and a place where they can explore different ideas and topics. Like when I was a library kid, so being able to walk into the library and be overwhelmed by a collection, because you're just like, I don't even know where to start, is such a cool feeling. And I love the idea that there are kids now that are coming into libraries and they're like, there's so much.
Yeah.
And so they can keep doing that.
Yeah, when we went on vacation, I always made my parents take me to see the local library wherever we went, just so I could see what it looked like, and did it compare, and was it better? Because that was just it. And what I still can't get over it. And obviously we pay taxes, but it's all free.
Yeah. We do not charge. We don't charge fines. We don't. No. We want people to be able to access these things without barriers.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And we've been blessed in Santa Fe, knock on wood, that some of the battles that other states and cities are having in terms of what sort of information should be in a library, that just seems like it's happening in another world.
It does and it doesn't. I think I'm a little bit closer to it just because it's my profession.
Right.
We are in a little bubble here, and I'm happy that we don't have to address a lot of those issues. But Rio Rancho had a challenge 2 or 3 years ago, and Albuquerque public schools also had kind of an organized group that came in to challenge. We haven't had that, and I think it speaks to this community and how much they love the library, but also they love information, and they love freedom, and they believe that these things are important and they would never think about banning a book, or wanting to restrict access to things. So we're lucky. We are very, and hopefully we stay lucky. Knock on wood.
No,
Um,
exactly.
But we are. I mean, if I know that if we ever have to deal with a challenge, we're prepared for it.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's part of the joy of a library is being able to wander and to look and to just see what you see.
Mhm.
You know,
Just browse the shelves, just
yeah.
be surprised by what's up there.
Yeah. Well, when I picked a book called Justine off the adult side when I was like 13, we had moved to Texas and there was a nice big library, and I did not know that the Marquis de Sade existed.
Oh.
And that was a shock.
Yeah.
I put it backwards so no one else would be shocked, but I left it there. And then I went home and it's like, okay, I think I'll stay on my side of the library for a while.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
We don't
That was-
police things, but every once in a while we might go,
Yeah. Yeah, no, because I mean, back in the day, you could check out adult books, but your parent had to be with you. And then after a certain point, if the librarians all knew me, they just let me check out whatever. So that was very nice. That was like a big step in your growth is being able to check out adult books.
Yeah, the first time I checked out a Stephen King book, I was probably like 8, and I kept thinking, I know, but they didn't.
You're brave. Did you have trouble sleeping?
No, actually, I discovered that horror is my favorite genre.
Oh, wow.
So I read all of his stuff.
Okay. I read Pet Sematary as an adult, and it was so scary I gave it away and said I never want his books in my house. Yeah, he's so good. Yeah.
He is. And, that led me down a different rabbit hole of other authors. But yeah, I just remember thinking, are they going to let me do this?
Yeah.
And they did. It was great.
Yeah, no, because you never know. I was a murder mystery person, so mine was like Ellery Queen and Rex Stout and things like that, and they just let me. And it was very nice because at a certain point, as much as young adult books are great and children's books are great, once your mind thinks differently, you've got to read something more complicated.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And although young adult literature has come a long way,
I know,
just
and
even
it's the one that's growing in terms of like books and publishing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is an exceedingly popular genre.
Yeah, no, I like
and
it. It's good.
it crosses. Adults read a lot of young adult books
Yeah.
because they're well written and they're interesting.
Yeah, and those people know how to tell a story. I think a lot of adult books lose plot a little bit. They're more into description and emphasis and character, and sometimes you just want stuff to happen as you read.
Yeah, right. Use action.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember reading The Three Musketeers, and in the middle of it, I was like, okay, I get it. Can we move on to like the sword fighting? I thought there was going to be more sword fighting. Less about, D'Artagnan picking up a loaf of bread and more fighting.
That's right. Because those were the best parts. I have to agree with you. I have to.
Yeah.
So is there any idea of a timeline on, what happens to the downtown library and, formulating plans or ideas, anything like that?
Well, once public comment is over, we have one last session today. The architectural firm that we're working with, Woven Architecture, is going to take all of that feedback as well as the feedback that they've gotten from staff and other stakeholders. And they're going to start making a plan, drawings and a whole plan that is due next spring.
Okay.
And then once we have like a fully realized plan in hand, then we're able to go to funders and say, this is what we have in mind. And, with the state being a lot more concerned about having shovel-ready projects, we want to be sure that we have a fully realized plan that can be immediately put into action. So, next spring we will have that. And then from there, we'll be able to take it to funders and try to get it funded, get an appropriation perhaps.
Nice. So basically, you're just working as hard as you can to envision something or to create something that will bring in more of the community, make it even better of a place to hang out and to read and to learn, and then get someone to pay for it so that it can be realized.
Yes, money is, we don't like to talk about money, but it is kind of important. And
dealing with old buildings is hard because there's always weird stuff that you don't expect.
And I'd imagine, I don't want to know what they found because they took out the middle of this building when they redid it. I don't know what they found, but I know that the two sides, we still have issues sometimes with like the plumbing and the electrical. So yeah, that also needs to be upgraded. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what sort of things they find once they start like getting into the crawl spaces.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, this is exciting, and I appreciate you taking the time to tell everybody about it. And can people write? I know you're having meetings, but if they want to send you an email or otherwise tell you maybe they missed the meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been taking comments on social media, and also we have an email that's just like library@santafenm.gov, which is our general email. And so anything that goes to that will get forwarded to me. And then I've been taking that feedback and giving it to the architects. So yeah, anytime people want to reach out and tell us what they think, they can do that.
Oh, nice. And on that note, this has been another Conversations Different. We'll be back next week. Thank you for listening to Conversations Different, hosted by me, Inez Russell Gomez, editorial page editor for the Santa Fe New Mexican. Our weekly episodes would not be possible without your support. We hope you enjoy them and keep listening. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Consider signing up for our newsletter so you never miss an episode, and while you're at it, consider subscribing to the Santa Fe New Mexican. Our podcast is available by visiting our website, santafenewmexican.com/podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Conversations Different with Inez Russell Gomez is produced by Matt Dalside and Ernesto Cisneros, published by the Santa Fe New Mexican, a local and independent newspaper owned by Robin Martin.